Welcome to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. All past shows are podcasts. Find them at ArtistFirst.com. We welcome your questions and comments. Please use DJ at ArtistFirst.com. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's your hosts, the real Michael and Margaret Lyons.
The real. I mean, we could have imitators, or we could be AI.
Oh my.
AI, E-I-E-I-O. I am not AI. I am Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret.
Yeah, and I am far, far from intelligent or artificial. No sweeteners, nothing. This is as sour and dumb as it gets.
Reality.
That's right, man. Reality check. And tonight we're going to talk about life.
Oh yeah, yes.
And we're gonna quote one of our favorite best buds, Meister Eckhart.
Yes.
Meister Eckhart is going to be our muse tonight. And I think, Margaret, let's just lead off with the quote. And this is the whole quote. We have put a slightly abridged quote on the website. So this is the whole quote, and you can look it up. If you go with the slightly abridged one, it will give you the whole one. Go.
Okay. Oh.
Well, if you're ready. Are you ready?
Well, I can't see it.
Wait, I can make it gigantic.
I can't see it.
And
Michael. All right, that angle is much better.
Yes.
All right. Life will give you whatever experience is most helpful for the evolution of your consciousness. How do you know this is the experience you need? Because this is the experience you are having at the moment. Eckhart Tolle.
Isn't that that's just so Eckhart? How do you know? How do you know this is the one you're having, you need? Well,
you could see that was the question.
Right.
You know,
that's the question.
Life will give you... Oh, okay.
Oh.
Life will give you whatever experience is most helpful for the evolution of your consciousness. That's his statement. Mm-hmm. You could see someone asking him, well, how do you know?
How, Master?
How do you know this is the experience you need?
Because?
Because you're having it.
Because you're having it. So let's unpack that a little bit. And I think the last part of this statement is among the most powerful and most important. It looks sort of innocuous. Because it seems like a tautology. It seems trite. Because this is the experience you're having at the moment. And you're like, well, duh, I mean, I can't avoid that. But that's the problem is that the ego spends most of its time, the unconscious ego spends most of its time wishing it's not where it is right now. If only it were X. Or last week it could have been Y.
Right.
Or, if everything would be perfect if A, B, and C weren't here.
Right.
Or if if only this and if only that, and it'll be just perfect a year from now when this and that happen. Okay, so the ego is incredibly obsessed with not being in the moment of now, especially if the moment of now has any particular challenge to it. Right? I mean, if the moment of now is somehow, your bread has landed jelly side down on the floor.
Right.
The ego's like, oh God, this always happens to me, and if only this, and if only that, and it's this one's fault, and this one has to pick it up, and this one has to fix it for me. And God, who can I blame for this? It can't be me. I'm always perfect, and everyone else around me is clods and horrible people who are all out to get me. That's the ego's response to challenge.
Mm-hmm.
The ego's response to jelly side down bread is that it's got to be somebody else's fault, and it sighs and moans and complains and mutters under its breath about what could be and how it could be this way and how everyone else is against me and blah 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 blah. And And what Eckhart is saying, and it's so obvious that people miss it all the time, is that every moment of your life, of your specific life, is exactly where you're supposed to be, exactly what you're supposed to be doing in that moment. It is incredibly special. It's for you and you alone. No other consciousness in the universe is having your experience. And you're there going, oh gosh, if only it could be something else. Duh. It can't be. And to willfully listen to the deceits of the ego that somehow, if I whine enough, it won't be this. And that it could be that. And that if only this, and if only this one wasn't out to get me, or if only this didn't fall on the floor, or whatever the hell it is to both fantasize that somehow you're in control and that the ego is somehow going to be able to run the universe, if only they would listen to me.
Right.
Right. And the second thing is you're missing your freaking life. It's right there in front of you. Every opportunity to be incredibly awesome and amazing, to deal with the moment at hand, which is the only moment you've got, is being told, is this whispering of the ego, oh gosh, if it only were this and only were that, and we've got it, we can't deal with this right now, and oh sigh, and oh woe is me. God, get over yourself, A, and B, don't miss your life. Because this is the experience you are having at the moment. Period. and it's both as simple and as incredibly awesome as that.
Well, most people, you are enjoying the experience when you first come here. I mean, it's just, everything is so new.
Firstborn.
Yeah. If you think of it, that's what most people's experiences are. If it's new, they're not really thinking about it. They're just, I'm here, and looking and perceiving what is around them. All of your five senses are active. You're seeing colors that you really don't have a word for, but you see them. And you hear sounds, but you're not always sure what they are, but you're hearing them. And the direct tactile, all of your smelling, all the experiences are coming together in that moment for you. And as you get older, as you begin to figure out, oh, that's the sound of my mommy coming to come in my room, opening the door, or that's the sound of her footsteps, or that's the sound of my brother or my sister. That's their voice. That's the smell of my food. We become accustomed to it, and it becomes familiar. So the tendency is to categorize that as, oh, I know what that is. And it's very interesting because each person processes this information, their experiences, very differently. Some people are like, okay, well, I'm going to categorize this a certain way so that whenever I see something even similar, I'm just going to lump it over here in this same category, same
box.
Mm-hmm. These are all the round things. These are all the square things.
Wait a minute. You've triggered my OCD. These are all the red things. These are all the blue things.
Right.
These are all the things that are just about the right same size.
Right.
Oh, my God, don't start.
Oh, dear. But that is the foundation, the beginning of how we explore our world. As we get older, we begin to link up these experiences a certain way. This is what it's like when this comes together, and then I get this result. Does that happen again? It's the old, like you take your coin, you put it in the machine, you turn the handle, and out comes a prize. Does that always happen? Or is it random, or am I getting the exact same thing every single time? It's play. Maybe that's the best way to put it. You're exploring your world with this wondrous sense of anything can happen.
Which is correct, right?
Yeah.
That's still okay. That's still observational and experiential.
Right. It's just when you think you know, that thought comes in, I can predict this consistently. Okay, we have been programmed to be able to go down that thought pattern to say, okay, maybe we can begin to predict this. But it's losing the experience if you're concentrating only on, I can predict this.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking about the experience and seeing, well, am I recognizing something, a pattern that can be replicated? And if it can be replicated repeatedly with the same result, that's science.
It is science.
That's science. That's like, okay, we got this down. But you also have to make room for the fact that maybe it doesn't always go that way. So that experiential thing, but to classify it a certain way, a certain pattern, and basically say, well, this is the way it's always going to be. In my life, this is how it always runs. I see something that can go wrong, and then it goes wrong.
Right, exactly. So
it's a thought pattern that someone is embracing.
I would say, if I might, what the shortcut that we're doing, we do all the things you just said. You tear experience into shreds, then you start putting it in boxes, start organizing it and predicting it, and all that is part of what human beings and what all what life does is it tries to make things into patterns and tries to figure out efficient ways. We call them, let's say, shortcuts. So if A, B, and C happen, then D's got to follow, so I can predict where that D is going to happen. And I think that's part of experiential life too, and making those connections. So you have your mental facility that allows you to do this, make these predictions, and it can be very sophisticated. But where we start to fall down and where the ego rises is when you start to say, well, I already know. The I know comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, you even go one step further and you say, I can control this. Not only am I just experiencing it, when you're in the experiential, when you're first born and brought into this world as an incarnate spirit, and you are experiencing it with, as Margaret just said, all your five senses, everything that you are. When you see an infant, they are extending every sense they have into their environment, and there's a sense of wonder. It's so open that they can be very easily frightened or startled because every sound or motion is so rich. They have to sleep a lot. Okay, why? Because infants are taking in so much that within a few hours they're ready for a nap. It's not just that they run out of physical energy; they've got to process. Their brains have drunk in, have soaked in tremendous amounts of experience that needs organization and categorizing and processing. So you've got to just shut down for a little while. And even now, even in everybody's purely mature life, there's a period of time that you have to spend unconscious, asleep. And your brain is far from inactive at that time. All your dreams and everything else that's going on during that inactive period are extremely necessary for your mental and physical well-being, because what the brain is doing is organizing and categorizing and cleaning up and making sure that all that experience that just came in is somehow made sense of. But there's a trap here. And the trap is that as you move away from pure experiential life as an infant into sort of referential and predictive life and shortcut life, you start to no longer be in the present moment. You start to predict the present moment. You start to anticipate the present moment. You start to fear or react to that which is not really real, which is not happening at the moment. You know, a case in point, Margaret, is this. Someone will see a situation, and you said it, I think, just a little bit earlier, and say, oh, okay, I know exactly what's going to happen. I know that this is going to go wrong, and it's going to go wrong, and it goes wrong, and there you go. See, it went wrong.
Yeah.
And they're almost happy. See, I told you it was going to go wrong.
Right.
I told you this was going to happen. Why didn't you listen to me? I could have predicted all this. I could have told you what was going to happen. Blah, 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 blah. And you're like, wow, you're a miserable person, aren't you? But the misery the ego loves that misery because it's getting everything it wants. It's getting attention. It's getting the feeling of control and superiority. It's getting to act out. It's getting to emotionally feed itself on the energy of the mental and physical and emotional portions of you that are drained into this ego body. It gets to wail and complain and just be generally miserable, and yet insanely happy at its ego level because it's getting fed. And what's sacrificed? The actual present moment of what really is going on. Yeah, all the things, yes, everything I said is going to, but in the moment of now, where the challenge has arisen, you're exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, which is not complaining and grousing and predicting and not wanting not to be there and wanting to be anywhere else and blaming everyone around you. No. You have the opportunity to do two incredibly important things. Accept that this is your current experience and that you are there for an absolute reason. You're in this moment in your specific and unique life to be, first of all, to accept that this is where you are, and then potentially to act.
Mm-hmm.
You may be in this challenge because you're the only one, the only being in creation that can make a difference.
Right.
But you have to accept that you're there first, because if you completely ignore it, blow past it, predict a million things, falling disaster, car wrecks, dogs and cats living together, everything, go miserable, go running around, you've done nothing. You're all inside your head. You're anywhere else but the present moment. And whatever it is you could have done, whatever experience you could have gathered from this, whatever benefit that you could have brought to the situation from your own unique perspective, with your own unique talents and abilities, is lost. The moment is gone. The moment is fleeting.
Yes, the moment is fleeting. And that's the interesting thing is if you can walk in that awareness that you're observing your own mind. Maybe that's the best way to put it. Excuse me. And you're seeing the flow of thoughts. It's very interesting because a question came up of, people say you have to control your thoughts. Now, if you think about that, really, what does that mean? Because I don't know about you, but I know from my own thoughts, they just kind of rise up, and there they are. this control idea is like, what are you talking? It just kind of appears on the screen, the thought. And the control is actually whether or not it comes out your mouth.
Well, that's something.
Well, that's a modicum of control, but this idea that the thoughts can, somehow you're going to be able to marshal all of them, and they're going to listen to exactly what you want them to do.
Isn't that interesting, though, that you tear yourself into those pieces, too? That your thoughts are somehow not you. And then,
well, okay, I'm not saying that they're not you. What I'm saying is that the mechanism of how this comes about is, emotions are very similar. They're not the same. Emotions rise up like a wave rising from your middle.
Right.
But thoughts, they're like almost like a ticker tape going across your forehead.
Yeah. With some people you can actually see it. Some people you can actually hear it.
Well, the thing is with thoughts, they're only one at a time. Thoughts can only come at you one at a time. It might be swift, where it's like a flash and then the next thought comes in. But they're always one at a time. Your emotions, on the other hand, you can have a mixture of emotions rising up simultaneously. And then you have to figure out what you're feeling.
That's very true. The thought, it's like there's one speaker of the thought, although there can be a sort of a cacophony going on, if you will, an argument. But each thought has its own not contiguity. It's of a piece.
It's a singular.
Exactly.
It's a singular, linear, one right after the other.
Right, like a marble or something. It's got a body to it. The thought is a thing.
Well, it's like, how do I say this? Your mental aspect can only focus on one thing at a time. True. Believe it or not. Even though you may be able to juggle multiple things, not saying that you can't do that. But you have to understand that every time you look at it, you're looking at it singularly. If you believe, and that's air quotes, that you can have more than one thought at a time, I'd say that your focus is split. In other words, you don't have a focus. You have scattershot.
Yeah. And so, but this is very important. I don't think we should go past this too quickly. One thought at a time, but as you said, emotions are blends.
Yes.
They're much more, emotions have the ability to mix and to be felt, as you said, all at once. You can feel angry, sad.
Yes.
You can feel and happy and surprised at the same time. You can feel angry and happy at the same time, which is these very opposite things, and more than one emotion. You can feel a whole plethora of emotions at the same time at different levels.
Right.
You can be furiously angry at somebody and still love them deeply.
Oh yes.
And still
yes,
and still be, let's say, happy even about what's going on. So this and the thoughts. This is one of the reasons why. I'll just say that one of the reasons why poetry is so incredibly difficult, because poetry attempts to use words, which are basically thought forms, to describe emotion. And so you have to both ferret out not just the word, but the placement of the word, the sound of the word, the way the word is moving through the sentence, the way the sentence moves with the sentence before and after it, the syncopation. You turn it into music, and music is interesting because music can express emotion very well. And what can you do in music? You can also blend all the notes together. But with thoughts, no. You blend all the thoughts together, you get blended. you get chaos.
Right.
But if you blend all the emotions together, you get music. And you can at least get music, a symphony, or you can get, cacophony, but it is all still there.
Well, music is a different part of the brain.
True.
That's the side that's nonverbal. And the most interesting thing,
Well, music was like a global process even. It was everywhere.
No, what I mean by that is that side of the brain, it's your right side, I believe. When music is playing, people join together in the emotion that's being evoked, and people truly, you come together in that moment and experience it together, the music. You don't necessarily do that with thoughts.
No, I'd say thoughts divide, in fact.
So it's understanding that both of these, they're wonderful experiences, but they work differently. And whether or not you are capable of discerning the difference, actually you're experiencing it and realizing in your consciousness that this is happening. There's no judgment on it. It's just, okay, I always feel this way when I hear this certain song. Or solving a mathematical problem. Oh, this is the process by which we go through in order to get that answer. And that's focus, that's singular. And through necessity, you have to carve away all the superfluous distractions in order to go through the process to get to your final answer. Emotions is the experience of, okay, this is what it feels like to be melancholy, to feel joy in the midst of great loss. And most people will look at you and go, what are you talking about? Because loss and joy don't seem to come under the same experience. But have some more experiences in life.
Well, yes.
Because life will present to you exactly what you need to expand your world. If you look at all your experiences in terms of, yes, I am expanding my consciousness, my boundaries, my experiences, and understanding how relationship plays a part in all of it. It's not all about me, but it is all about how I reach out and have these different forms of relationship with the people and the places that I walk with or through.
You very, very true. But I want to go back a little bit, because what you said before, I think, was even I think it needs a little more emphasis.
Okay.
What you were saying, thoughts divide. Thoughts have to be pared down. You said thoughts have to be pared down, and versus emotions. And music is such a lovely analog of emotions. Music tends to join. If you take a group of people in a room and everyone's having a conversation, it's like a cacophony. You can be listening to one or another. You can try to command the attention of the crowd, but you're probably going to have 30 conversations in a group of 60 people going on. Yet you take that same group and you begin to play music, and everyone will first hush, and then the music will pervade their consciousness, and they will all start to feel. And if you, even in 2 minutes of a song, and you can see it on some of these variety shows, in 2 minutes of song, you take people from being basically just a bunch of people to everyone feeling this immense sorrow or joy or a blend of emotions. This, you can unify a group of people in that emotional sense. Okay, so what is the difference there? They're both not your being, yet they both have the ability to distract from the moment of now, or to be in the moment of now, to be in your consciousness entirely, or to draw you away from the actual moment of now. Music tends to be a gateway to being, because you can almost lose yourself. You still the thoughts. You still the tearing of a reality into shreds and the organizing of reality into boxes, which is a lot of the ego. The ego does a lot of that. But the ego can also subvert and redirect emotions into feeding the ego, into feeding the pain body, into emotion. And we said this many times. Emotion is energy. It's power. It's like the tides. It flows through you. It could be like the key, of the body. It's energy of the body. It's energy from within. The mind, it does what you were saying. It discerns. It focuses. It tears. It organizes. It does all these things. But both of them can be subverted by the ego. The ego into these endless, repetitive thought patterns, and then using them to trigger emotional constructs, which is then just feeds into the thought patterns and ties up all your energy. And pretty soon you're not having any actual experience. You're just getting the most minute triggers, which send you off into all kinds of emotional caroming through your universe with these emotional bombs going off. The anger or fear or whatever it is. And then all the spinning of thoughts. So this one's after me, that one's after me, this one's doing this, and this one's doing that. Blah, 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 blah. So these things are not you. You are not your emotions. You're not. You've said this many times. You're not what you feel, and you're not what you think, and you're not what you think you feel. You're none of those things. You are a being with thoughts. You are a being with an ego. You are a being with emotions. But within all of you, and all the universe is within your being, within your consciousness. And your life is the period of time that your being is incarnate. It is not guaranteed. It can be short or long, or in fact, it just is what it is. It's neither short nor long. Short and long are evaluations. This one had a long life. This one had a short life. No. You're a being. You're incarnate. You have a life. And the operative word in those three sentences is you. You are unique. You are a being unlike any other. You're here to have relationships. You're here to have experiences. You're going to have thoughts. You're going to have emotions. You're going to be tempted to identify and to subvert and to narrow your being into tiny little things, because you have that power to tear yourself apart. You have the power to hide as much as in the way that when God created man, he gave man, all of us, the power to deny God. Isn't that an amazing power, to be able to deny your creator? Your being has the power to deny its own beinghood. Right. Isn't that wonderful? You can literally take what is vast and incomprehensible, cannot be thought of, emotions cannot contain it, and yet distill it and contain it and trammel it into emotions and thoughts and the tiniest of things. You have that power, such a powerful thing that can twist itself into something smaller than itself. Right. However, none of that changes that you are a being, and that if you want to fully experience your beinghood, you have to understand that as the thoughts come in, they're just thoughts. Observe them. There it is, a thought. Rolls off the table. That's the meditative practice. Emotions come in like giant tides. You observe them. Give them a big space. Here's all the emotions that are coming up. It's part of the experience. I feel angry. I feel sad. I don't know how I feel, but I know I'm feeling something. And I may think about it. How did this happen? But in the experience of now, in the experience of this moment, the overarching thing that Tolle is talking about here is that this is the experience you need right now. Whatever it is. And why? Because you're there. Because you, the unique emanation of Source, the unique piece of God, if you will, that is incarnate in your flesh at the moment, is there for an important reason, because you have to be. And in being, You have to experience. And in experiencing, you have to accept it. And then you have this wonderful, amazing free will to say, what will I do? What will I decide? How will I change the universe with my actions? Because every action you make in consciousness, well, unconscious or not, but if you make it within consciousness, it becomes an experiential, it becomes an experiential joining with that which makes the universe, creation. You become a creator. And you can feel it, right? You can feel it in the act of creating music, or the act of writing a book, or the act of solving a math problem. If you do it in being, you feel yourself writing upon the universe. Feels good. Feels amazing. Feels sort of beyond description, right? You can't put words to it. You can't even totally encompass it in feeling, but you know you're doing it.
Right. It's an overall, how do you say this? If you look at your consciousness and the story that you want to participate in is that you want to live a life. Everyone has that impulse. I want to be able to live my life. And you can't even put your finger on what exactly that is.
What it means even, right?
Well, there is that impulse deep within you. You identify, it's an impulse. It's a thrust forward into experience. So it's a soul response. When you sit with that, you realize it's coming from deep within you. And you want to be able to take steps in that. How is that possible? In other words, when you enter this world and you begin to enact on play, because play is experiencing life, then you begin to engage all the other faculties that you have, thought, ordering things, learning how to manipulate your body, how to walk, how to run, how to jump, how to ride bikes, how to drive cars. How do you do these things? And you get involved with all of it. But it's that realization that there are experiences that you feel are positive and others that are negative. And I don't want to experience that feeling again. That response is usually what happens when you've gone through a bunch of things. You realize there's certain things you really don't want to do again. I'd rather not. And if you form that prejudice against experiencing your own life, that's when the control issue steps in. Has nothing to do with experiencing life as it is. Has everything to do with don't want this or I do want that. And to be able to separate those two concepts is key, because when you go into that I want this and I don't want that, you're limiting yourself. And then the fear, you got to watch fear. Fear is very tricky. Fear will drive you away from experiencing the fullness of your life. And I get it. You don't want to experience the negative stuff. Believe me, I do understand that. But life is as it is. And this is what you signed up for. I hate to say that, but you come down here because you want to experience life. And the idea that it's like you don't necessarily need to form an opinion before you have every experience.
Well, I think that's extremely. That's the key of it. I mean, rather, that's one of the blocks to experience. And let's take that and really kind of lay it out. When people have a negative experience,
right,
you generally want to avoid it. And the problem with a negative experience is that it can evoke an egoic response. Okay, you're here. We're starting as an infant. We do something, and there's some negative experience, pain involved. You fell down and it hurt, and you cried and whatever. And then you, in that moment, can form a aversion, a negative egoic experience that says, oh, well, I don't want to have this happen again, whatever it may be. And right there in that sentence, you've already seen that there's an ego being created, because it goes from an experience, I fell down, there was a bump or a scrape, and there was pain, and I cried, and it was unpleasant. But the problem is that you then form this aversion to that. How can I not ever have that happen again? And that I don't like this. The judgment is the beginning of that egoic response. I don't want this. I don't like this. And then if you allow it, but that ego being starts to gather, so, well, okay, we'll never have this happen again. So let's look for every situation where this might happen. I heard that this could happen to us. Oh, and this looks like it could. There could be a problem here, or I know that I've seen other people have a problem in this situation, so I don't want to even try it. And I'm going to live my life so that I will never ever have the possibility of being hurt again. And you can go from a bump or a scrape to never ever wanting to try any relationship with any human being in the universe, because once, when you tried to reach out, somebody said, I don't like you, you look funny. Well, now I'm never, ever going to take that risk again. I'm never going to put myself in a situation where somebody else could make fun of me or laugh at me or not like me or reject me. And the ego says, yes, this is exactly what we want to do. We will make sure that we are never hurt again, and we will never come out of our room, ever. And the problem is, it sounds funny, but this is what happens to people. Giving yourself the ability to judge experience, predict experience, and then proactively, without having the experience in front of you, avoid experience or try to avoid experience. And Margaret, oftentimes you say we try to avoid experience, and it's like a Greek play. It's the avoidance of the anticipated problem leads you into another problem even worse, right? And so how much fiction is written in that way? Oh, you do everything to avoid the problem, and it happens anyway. And people love stories like that. But it's not so fun when it happens to you, though.
Right.
But the thing is, let it be fun, or rather. The only way to win this game is to not play it. Don't play the egoic game. Yes, you fell down, you scraped your knee, you got hurt. You tried to talk to the girl, and the girl said you smelled funny and you felt bad. Okay, you were in the situation, and the experience happened, and the ego wants to say that we need to control this. We can never let this happen again. And the being has to say, that moment of now, something happened, I felt bad, or I thought that it was going to be this way and it wasn't that way. It's okay. It was that moment, it's not related to this moment. That the living of my life, what Margaret said earlier, that this impulse to come here and be in experience, the freedom to choose, the freedom to be, is much more important. And people say this. If you want to look at any self-help book, they'll say the most important thing is to try. And if you fail, get up and try again. And what happens? You fail, and you fail, and you fail, and you fail, and you spend your whole life failing, but then you live because you try. You never let yourself be defeated by circumstance. Right. And every failure provided invaluable experience beyond measure, so that you said to yourself, not that I'm never going to fail again, I'm going to try a different way. Right. Or I'm going to try, even if I know it's going to fail, there's still value in the living. Even if you know you're going to die, you know it 1,000%, because we all are going to die. You know that this particular action, is 100% guaranteed that you are going to die, but you have to do it anyway. You say yes, because that's the experience. That's the experience that you need right now, and you don't know you're going to die. Your ego says you are going to. You take the chance anyway, in which case you are living your life to the experience of the moment of now. You're exactly where you're supposed to be, and exactly where you're supposed to be looks like hell.
Right.
But you do it anyway, because, gosh darn it, in this moment of now, you've got hell to deal with. There's no one else better, and hell better watch out, because I'm here to deal with hell.
Well, that's
hell better watch out.
Finding out who you actually are.
That's right.
Because fear wants you to shrink back and not engage,
right.
To give over,
to give up
in that moment. And your spirit is unconquerable, indomitable.
Death or not.
Yes, it goes past death. And that divine spark in you just ignites and says, no. I live. In fact, what was it, a couple weeks ago? Are you prepared to die? Understanding what that means. Have you lived? Are you prepared to die? And most people, again, they go immediately to the ego and they're like trying to classify things.
How could you say that?
But what that means, if you truly are only living in these boxes that you've created for yourself, then you've only experienced a part of life. There's a whole part. Your life is vast. Your life is vast, and you can go any way you want. But you have to be aware of what your choices actually are, and what repercussions may come of it. You may not know at all what the repercussions may be, but that's why you're here. You're going to walk this road and not give up, because that temptation is always there. Give up. It's too hard. And you're like, hard is hard. What are you talking? If this is where my path is going, you reach inside and find out the motivation. What is motivating you to move your feet on this path, especially if it's a difficult path? And what we found is that when you are motivated by love, by care, by compassion, you'll walk that path no matter how difficult it may appear. Because you realize there's something more at stake than the inconvenience that it may give you, or, as someone we both know had said, Mom, it's only pain.
Well, exactly. And in that moment, what Christopher said, in that moment encapsulates exactly this thing that Tolle is saying. Life will give you whatever experience is most helpful for the evolution of your consciousness. Okay, that doesn't helpful. Helpful is a funny word. Helpful is not pleasant.
No.
Helpful is not easy.
No.
Helpful just means that you're furthering yourself in the most efficient way for the evolution of your consciousness. But there's something important here. Life will give you. It's a gift, and you have to accept it. You can reject it, and egoically, what you're doing is rejecting the gift of life when you try to avoid it. Now, can you actually avoid the moment of now? No. But you can avoid the experience. You can avoid the evolution because you have to choose to accept that this is where you are. And accepting it can be a statement like, it's only pain. Well, people would say, well, what do you mean it's only pain? You don't want to have pain? The most helpful thing may not be without pain. The most helpful thing may involve pain. It may involve a slice of hell. It may not. Please understand, the most helpful thing for the evolution of your consciousness may be all puppies and roses. That's great if that's what happens to you, and it may, and God bless you. And if you can sit down under the Bodhi tree and be struck by the lightning bolt of illumination and get up and say, I'm the Buddha, and everyone goes, wow, that's cool. That's great. But it doesn't always happen that way, and you shouldn't expect it. And what you should expect is nothing. You should expect that whatever happens, and it can be completely unexpected, and frankly should be, because if you're sitting there expecting it, you probably are, as they say, when you're, if you think you know what's going on, you probably, or rather, if you think I forget how the phrase goes, but basically, if you think you know what's going on, that you haven't thought hard enough. Don't think about it. Life will hand you an experience. Know right in that moment, whatever the experience is, puppies and roses or pain or whatever it may be, it's the most helpful thing for the evolution of your particular consciousness. It's why you're here. Life hands you something. It isn't done, there's not some life bank that says, oh, George gets this today. No, it just happens. But the thing that is handed to you is uniquely yours because it's your unique consciousness, your unique experience. You have the ability to do one thing and one thing only, but it's the superpower of the ages. You get to accept it and then decide what to do about it. Not whether or not it's going to happen. You don't say, well, I'm going to control this. No, you say, this is where I am. Be there. This is what I'm going to try. Next. Whatever it is. Maybe nothing, no action involved, but it's whatever it is. And then the next moment of now happens. You've done an amazing thing. You've accepted that this is where you are. You know that this is what you need. You're going to do whatever it is that Spirit prompts you through your heart to do. You ask in grace. You say, give me what I need to do here. The answer comes. It sounds crazy. He goes, you can't do that. Your emotions go, oh, this could be scary. And then you go, it needs to be done as a being. And you do it. And then you don't know what the outcome is going to be. That's the most amazing thing. You shouldn't try to predict what the outcome is going to be. Everything's going to be great if I do this. No. Everything's going to be terrible if I do this. No. I have to do this. I have no idea what's going to happen next. That's the scary part, if you will, but it's also the living part.
Mm-hmm.
When you're an infant and you reach out your hand to try and grasp this fuzzy thing in front of you, you have no idea what's going to happen. But you do it anyway, because there you are. It's an experience, and it turns out to be whatever, your mom's face or a cookie or who knows what it is. But you experience it.
Mm-hmm.
Keep that. That's a being state. Keep that. Keep that innocence of infancy into your actions throughout your life, however long it may be, and you'll get whatever experience is most helpful for the evolution of your consciousness. And you don't care about whether it's what you need. It just is.
What is?
It is what it is. That lovely phrase.
It is what
the
it is.
isness of now, I think Tolle calls it.
And allowing yourself to do that. Because many times people prejudge themselves even before taking a direction. They'll sit there and they'll go through all these
game it out.
Yeah, possibilities. And that's just thinking about life. It's not actually living it. And when you're in that position where you're not sure about what to do, my suggestion is to go inward and feel what your heart tells you about it. Is this a road I should take a step on? And the response is always a very quiet voice. Nothing yells at you when you're speaking directly to that part, that eternal part of you, the eternal spirit within. And many times it will tell you, yes, you must walk here, or no, don't go there. And it's just very direct, truthful, and quiet. Truth has a ring to it, and it doesn't matter the volume of the voice.
And the ego will try to argue with it, but don't let the ego argue with your heart. Your heart, listen to your heart, listen to the quiet voice, and the ego will still itself if you just don't pay attention to it.
In fact, if the voice in your head is yelling at you, it's usually your ego.
Absolutely. It's 100% the ego when the ego says, oh, no, you can't do that.
What will people think?
Well, exactly what I was going to say. What will people think? And you go, the hell with what people think. Your heart goes, I could care less. I couldn't care less what people think. That's the heart experience.
Right. It's only an opinion.
And Campbell would say it too, Joseph Campbell. He would say, follow your bliss. But what he really means is follow your heart. And that's experiential. If you follow your bliss, you follow your heart, it may take you places where no one else, everyone else in your life would say, you're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And you go, yeah, see ya.
Yeah, that's true.
Just crazy old me.
Well, it doesn't make any sense.
Right, to them.
To them. Which is fine, because it's your life, not theirs.
Not theirs, exactly.
I find it interesting that they've got to put their 2 cents in. But people always seem to do that because they can't look within to see what they're actually doing with themselves. It's almost too painful sometimes for them to look at themselves and say, oh, wait a minute, I'm actually doing that too.
Well, and you know, Margaret, and we don't have a lot of time for this, but the ego of others looks at someone who's acting with the whispered voice of the heart, and it tries to stop it, but internally they're going, wow, they really got something. There's something here that's attractive. When you see someone operating from experience in full consciousness, it echoes in the being. It attracts a certain honesty. And this you see when people are creating something beyond themselves, beyond their current capabilities. They go beyond themselves, a sports figure or a musician or whomever, who goes beyond what seems that they could possibly do. And it evokes this amazing admiration within, because that's the being saying, wow, there's somebody who's really, there's somebody who's really living.
Right.
And you go, you can really live too.
Right.
And then you get afraid. No, don't be afraid. Listen to your heart. You can really live too.
Yes, you can do it as well.
You know what we have to do now?
Mm-hmm.
The experience of life is we have to get off the damn radio. Okay. So I'm Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret. And thank you for listening.